What is your dream? Will you achieve it in your lifetime? I'm certain that you desire to. I'm sure you hope you will. But will you actually do it? What odds would you give yourself? 1 in 5? 1 in 100? 1 in a million? How can you tell whether your chances are good or whether your dream will always remain exactly that, a dream? And are you willing to put it to the test? Most people I know have a dream. In fact, I've asked hundreds, if not thousands, of people about their dream. Some willingly describe it with great detail and enthusiasm. Others are reluctant to talk about it. They seem embarrassed to say it out loud. These people have never tested their dream. They don't know if others will laugh at them. They're not sure if they're aiming too high or too low. They don't know if their dream is something they can really achieve or if they're destined to fail. They have no idea how to achieve their dreams. What they possess is a vague notion that there is something they would like to do someday or someone they would like to become, but they don't know how to get from here to there. If that describes you, then you'll be glad to know that there really is hope, and I believe that this speech can help you. After hearing this excerpt from John C. Maxwell's book, Put Your Dream to the Test, I challenge you to ponder 3 questions with me this morning. Why me? Why now? And why not? Let's watch the following video clip together.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hey, Hal. This is a surprise. Good morning to you, sunshine. What are you doing here? I thought you left to be a full-time mom.
I am. I just wanted to use the office for something I've been working on.
Hey there, man.
Gary's out of town for a few days, so that's why I brought my little cowboy along.
So what's that little project you're working on?
Well, to be honest, you inspired me. I'm putting together a couple of fundraisers for the FFA.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
When were you going to tell your old man about that?
Well, I mean, you're a busy guy, and, you know, you're just always out there at the auctions supporting the kids and stuff. I figured there's got to be something I can do besides sit on my duff and watch soap operas, eating bonbons all day while the baby takes his naps.
Life of a mother. Don't cough on the baby. You're gonna get the baby sick. You all right?
Oh.
Put your hands together if you recognize this movie. I wanted to share this clip from Deep in the Heart, the inspirational documentary about the story of all-time leading individual donor to the Texas FFA, Mr. Richard Walrath. Let's give him a round of applause. In this film, Dee Dee, better known as Dina Walrath, decided to start creating fundraisers for 4-H and FFA members because she was inspired by her father's giving. Earlier in the film, Dee Dee decides to give up her opportunity to continue furthering her education at Texas A&M University, where she was currently studying accounting in order to come back to work for Mr. Walrath. She hoped to make the world a little better than she found it by creating fundraisers for 4-H and FFA members. Let's think about that for a moment. How many times in our own lives do we have the opportunity to recognize our purpose and use it, but choose not to? Guys, think about the last time you did something great with a talent you have. Some of you may can get a perfect score on an FFA quiz. Others possibly can lead a district FFA officer team. We all have different talents and abilities, but ladies and gentlemen, I think each of us has one thing in common. When looking at the question, why me? We all recognize that we were each made differently. However, all of us uniquely gifted with tools to positively change the world we live in. Each of us recognizes that our purpose can be very, very powerful. Once we've discovered our purpose or create our dream, I think next we ask ourselves, why now? Why is it so important for me to do something right this minute? Why can't I wait until later when I'm out of high school to make a difference? I'd like to share a story with you about an old man who let that opportunity pass him by. This old man's story can be found in the book To a Child, Love is Spelled T-I-M-E. It begins with an old man searching in the attic for a photograph of his loving wife. During his search for the photograph, he comes across a journal from his grown son's childhood. He had never known that his son had once kept a journal and began shaking his white-haired head at just how much junk his wife had held on to. As he opened the yellowed pages and began reading an entry, his lips curved into an unconscious smile, and his eyes even brightened as the words spoke straight to his soul. It was the voice of the little boy who had grown up far too fast in this very house, and whose voice had grown fainter and fainter over the years. In the utter silence of the attic, the words of a 6-year-old boy worked their magic and carried the old man back to a time almost totally forgotten. Entry after entry stirred a sentimental hunger in his heart, like the longing a gardener feels in the wintertime for the fragrance of spring flowers. But this reminded the old man that his thoughts from these days were much, much different. Reminded that he had kept a daily journal of his business activities over the years, the old man closed his son's journal and turned to leave, having forgotten the cherished photo of his wife that had originally triggered his search. Once back into the living room, he reached into a glass cabinet and pulled out his old business journal. Turning, he sat at his desk and placed the two journals beside each other. His was leather-bound with his name neatly engraved in gold, while his son's was tattered, and the name Jimmy had nearly been scuffed from its surface. He ran a long, skinny finger over the lettering, as though he could restore what had been worn away with time and use. As the old man opened his journal, his eyes fell upon an inscription because it was so brief in comparison to other days. In his own neat handwriting were these words: "Wasted the whole day fishing with Jimmy. Didn't catch a thing." With a deep sigh and a shaking hand, he took Jimmy's journal and found the boy's entry for the same day, June 4th. Large, scrawling letters pressed deeply into the paper read, "Went fishing with my dad. Best day of my life." Sometimes we never realize just how powerful our purpose or inspiring our dreams can be, especially around those we know and love, until they're completely forgotten. The longer we wait, the more opportunities to positively change the lives around us slowly drift away. Serving this past year as Texas FFA president, I have woken up in a different town, in a different home, visiting 3 schools a day, 5 days a week, for 108 days this past school year. There were many opportunities where I could have taken my job for granted. And guys, I'll be honest with each and every one of you. There were several occasions when I asked myself, am I really making a difference? Then I remembered the words to a speech I gave on a stage in Lubbock last summer at the Texas FFA Convention. The words were, sometimes it's not really about me. It's about something bigger. I now realize that there may not ever be another chance for me in this life to positively live out my purpose of serving others and to help high school students just like you utilize the importance of acting now to make a difference. When I become the age of Jimmy's father, I hope to have a different experience. I will look back on all that each of you have taught me and find peace in knowing that I did every last thing that I could. Ladies and gentlemen, will you do the same? When you graduate from high school, will you honestly be able to say that you did everything necessary to fulfill your purpose in those 4 years? Upon hanging up your FFA jacket for the final time, will you find comfort in knowing that you accomplished your dream of advancing to that national contest, winning that proficiency award, or crafting that agri-science fair project that goes on to positively change the way we produce the crops Texans grow every single day? Texas FFA members and guests, once we recognize that we all inherently have a purpose and that it can be a powerful tool for making a difference, I have to ask you one final question. Why not tell others about your dream or your story? Why not use your purpose to leave behind an example for someone else to follow? Like all of you, I once had a start in the FFA. However, unlike most of you, my start was probably very different. Allow me to take you back to October 19th, 2008. This morning felt different, very different. My mom and I were returning home from the city known for the Indiana Pacers and the Indianapolis Colts. This morning, I was en route to White House, Texas on my journey home from my very first National FFA Convention, my sophomore year of high school, as a member of the National FFA Band. Any band members in the crowd? Just like you, I was pumped. I cannot even begin to explain to you the thoughts that were racing through my mind as we left the city filled with friends, places, and experiences that I would never forget. However, as we arrived at the airport that morning, that strange feeling stumbled back into my head. Was it because I had missed my chemistry test leak because I was in Indiana for that whole week of National Convention? Surely not. I'm nerdy, but not quite that nerdy. As we arrived at the airport, this is when it happened. I met the man who would forever change the way I would see my role in the FFA. Dressed in a black suit with a shirt and traditional golden tie, hair perfectly parted to one side with a pencil-thin mustache, as Mom and I made our way to the curbside baggage check, this man approached my mother and I, extended his hand to me, and introduced himself. After noticing my FFA jacket that had my name and the words National FFA Band with the year 2008 beneath, the man said this introduction. "Hello, my name is Tom Maynard." Not really knowing what to do as a sophomore when a guy in a suit approaches you at an airport, hoping and praying it was not TSA, I said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Maynard. My name is Peyton Gilbert." After my mom introduced herself, we learned that Mr. Maynard was the executive director of the Texas FFA Association and was on his way back to Austin, Texas, returning home from the National FFA Convention as well. A question from him followed my next response. He asked me where I was from, and when I gave him the answer that I did, he gave me a puzzled look. He then asked me, "Peyton, do you have any aspirations within the FFA?" Just moments before, I learned that Mr. Maynard was the advisor to the Texas State FFA officer team, and I quickly replied to him that I would love for the opportunity to serve as Texas FFA president someday. To which he stated, "Peyton, you're going to have to know the FFA manual backwards and forwards. You're also going to have a lot of determination. That is the only way I can see you achieving that goal, being where you are from." I was speechless. I had no idea that my FFA chapter was not as active as the ones around us. My teachers had just taken me to my first district and area degree check. We had an awesome ag mechanics program, but apparently I did not have what it takes to become Texas FFA president. I immediately lost all confidence in myself in that moment. However, ladies and gentlemen, that moment did not last long. Allow me to take you back one more time, a week before, to October 12th, when our plane touched down in Indianapolis for the very first time, and I will describe to you, event by event, exactly what happened to me during the week of the National FFA Convention. Upon arriving in Indiana, I met some great FFA members from all across the state that are still my friends to this day, some of which, 4 in particular, actually went on to serve as state FFA presidents in their own state. Each and every one of them welcomed me in as a Texas member of the band. I also learned about the other opportunities available to the musical members of the National Convention. Of the 4 extra activities available to band members, I tried out for a trombone solo and a speaking part. I remember thinking to myself, how cool would it be able to play or speak in front of the national audience? There has to be at least 500 people at the National FFA Convention. Apparently, I had no idea the size of the event. My previous convention experience to this point had been the Longview District Convention in the Great Area 6 Association. As I made my way back to practice the following morning, we had just received a visit from the National FFA officers late that night. I had no idea that there were National FFA officers. Once again, I was pumped. And as I made my way back to practice the following day, posted on the outside of the door was my name under the song Jersey Boys as the member who would introduce the song and the band. Once again, I was excited. Our director, Mr. LaJoy, told me that morning, the next day, as the first general session of the 81st National FFA Convention began, that I would have to report backstage to receive instruction on where to go and what to do. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what I did. As I walked backstage, I came face to face with a man who would forever change my life on October 12th, 2008, at approximately 10:03 that morning. The man approached me with a smile as bright as a Missouri sun. He had just spoken to me a day earlier with his 5 teammates. This man's name was Zach Kinney, the 2008 National FFA President. As he led me out onto the stage, I came face to face with 25,000 FFA members waiting to hear me speak. Talk about, what do I do? Knowing these were my last few moments with Zach, I asked him one simple question that triggered a response that would forever change my simple life. I said, Zach, what does it take to be the National FFA President, the leader of all FFA members? To which he stated, it doesn't take a vast knowledge of agriculture or even a great speaking voice, Peyton. It takes one thing, a white-hot passion to change the world, a fire in the gut to make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, I still remember Zach's words because as we flew home on October 19th, I vowed never to forget them. Nearly 2.5 years later, that same man who met me at an airport, who told me it would take me a long ride to accomplish my goals, met me on the stage at the Texas FFA Convention last summer, came up this very stairway, and with a twinkle in his eyes, told me, congratulations, Mr. Gilbert. You've proved me wrong. You're the 84th Texas FFA president, and my friend, you have an incredible story to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea that the encounter that I had with Mr. Maynard is actually exactly what I needed in order to push me to achieve my goals. As a result, my FFA chapter, the White House FFA chapter, I stand on this stage proud of today for setting and accomplishing goals unlike ever before. Sometimes people will come into our lives during a very specific time for a very specific purpose. As FFA members, ladies and gentlemen, we also have the opportunity to positively influence someone's life. So when given the chance to do so, why not do it? Each of you will be remembered for what you do here today. Each of you will be remembered for the things that you have done in the FFA. But I would like to say one final thing to you. All of us have opportunities in life to recognize our purpose, discover how powerful it can be, and ultimately make a decision on whether or not to use it. I encourage you today to recognize your purpose, understand how powerful it can be, and do not hesitate to use it. Whether that's running for chapter president, exhibiting your first animal project, developing a community service endeavor for your local community, or simply committing yourself to serve those around you, your state president challenges you today to make a difference that will forever ring in the hearts of tomorrow. In closing, I'm not on this stage to show off, and I'm definitely not here to put on an act. I am here to show you my heart, to show you a living example that through faith, determination, and a concrete belief in yourself, ladies and gentlemen, anything is possible. At the end of the day, my jacket is the only one that displays Texas FFA president, but I can guarantee you with it off, my heart burns with the same passion and desire that each of yours does. I have one final resolve. Be courageous. Similar to Jimmy's father, your time is ticking right now. Guess what? Like Dee Dee, you all have a purpose. You want to change the world? Let me ask you, why not?